I'm doing good, doing good. Today, on the first day here in Quebec, that it's not snowing, I guess. I think there's no audio from what I can see in the chat.
So I just introduced everybody and did a whole cool thing and didn't sound like a total idiot and didn't click on the audio. So
It happens, it's
that was
fine.
user error. So we're speaking with Jonathan, the lead designer of Arkelon. I got the game correct, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Um, I love it when I talk to people they can't hear me. Okay, so you were saying that this is the first day you haven't got snow in Quebec.
Yes, exactly.
I
The
don't believe you.
first,
It snows year round.
I mean, okay, yeah, probably. Yeah, it probably does.
It snows right at the border.
Yeah, exactly. It stops. Like
Yeah,
the second you get to the United States, it stops
exactly. Yeah. I always ask my wife,
magically.
who's Canadian, like, do rich Canadians live in 2-story igloos? So, what can you tell us about your particular game? We'll start off nice and simple.
Sure. Well, Arkelon Chronicles is a role-playing game about like in a universe where magic and technology live together. So it's more science fantasy than pure fantasy or pure science fiction. I'm sorry, I'm French, so sometimes I forget words.
Oh, no
Um,
worries.
but yeah, it's more science fantasy than really hard fantasy or hard science fiction. We try to make a game where, for now, actually, we try not to 100% explore the space travel and things like that. We probably will bring this a bit later, just because we really want to put together the base mechanics very well and then explore other things later. Um, and we try to keep it simple and kind of what's the word? Relatable, I suppose. Like there's classes, there's different races, different kind of heritages that you can select and play. That is quite reminiscent of more common role-playing games.
So I was looking through. You have like 8 classes.
We have 12
12.
currently. Yeah. We have 12 classes and 12 races in total.
And then under each race, races have heritage. I was looking. Some had 3. Some had like your your version of Dragonkin. I think it was called.
Yeah.
They had like 6 or 7
Yeah,
heritages.
it depends on the different like races. Some have more, some have less, depending on the different places they come from, how they became what they are right now, depending on the places. Some have scattered a little more, or some have more diverse ancestries that can lead to more heritages that you can select depending on what they are.
Looks like Twitch just jumped in with a commercial. Um, I think those got turned on a week or 2 ago, so I got to go find in the Twitch settings how to turn them back off.
Yeah,
You know,
I don't
I
know.
guess Twitch isn't making enough money off us, so they've got to have the
To
pre-roll
put
commercial,
put
mid-roll,
some.
and yeah.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't know how to put them off. So
Um, so you're the lead designer, but you were before we started talking. You said you got a team. So how many people are on your team, and what uh, kind of what are they all doing?
so we are a team of 6 people that are working on Arkelon. we have like three people that are working on it more full time, and there are other three that is more part time. For me, as I said, I'm like the lead designer. I'm the one that is mostly writing all the book, coming with some of the ideas, writing together like all the classes, the races, the rules. We have another one that is more about research, searching like ideas or looking through different inspirational media to say, okay, so what kind of things people like, what kind of things people don't like, doing more social media thing. And we have another person that is the other person that is more full time is really more designing cool monsters, encounters, the different classes, putting together like not a complete balance because I don't care really much about that in tabletop role playing games, but trying to just keep it like so everything is fun and everything keeps being fun for everybody, instead of having like one class that is played by everyone because it just too powerful, or one class that is completely overlooked because it's just bad. So it's mostly that, and the other three people are more about layouts, creating the PDF and the physical books, translating it in French because since we're in Quebec, we are kind of forced to do it in French. It's like the rules to publish things here.
That's
We
why you
have
get
to,
grape slash raisin crush when you go cross over to Canada.
yeah, we have to like translate it because when we publish things here, they don't care it's in English, but there has to be some sort of French version either eventually or at the same time. And the other one is more about writing lore and different like lore about the gods, the races, the classes, just writing out all these flavor text all around. And we have artists, of course, that are hired, but we have one like that could be possibly considered a seventh member of the team because he's like the main art guy that is supervising every other artist. Like with me and him, we're both like checking the art to be sure that everything is good, everything looks good, and everything is like consistent with each other.
Well, if people go to your website, they can see the art that you guys have up looks really good. So I think it captures a lot of the aesthetics that you're going for, from what I can, from what I can read off your website.
Yeah, the art was something that when we started working on the game, like the art was something that we really wanted to put something, a lot of attention on. Like I know that art is not the most important part of a role playing game, but it can really send a message and really like quickly capture the essence of a game. So we wanted to put extra effort into that, like not making just generic characters for everything.
So it art is far more important than a lot of people give credit, because we've talked about this with a lot of designers. A couple weeks ago, we had a game designer on. We were talking about the importance of art because I say it a million times. I've seen a lot of beautiful games with that have great art and a mediocre or bad game that sell well, and I've seen great games with no or bad art that just sit and don't. So it's really important. We've had and it was nice because like the week after we had an artist on, talking to people about hey, art is very important, because even I've seen some good art that just doesn't match the aesthetic of a game, and you're just like, do I want it? You're like, it's pretty, but reading
It's
through, you're
pretty,
like,
but why? It's
yeah, it's
pretty,
like
but why?
exactly. And if
Yeah, I mean, I work in video games outside of like this, and I mean, there's so many video games that sell just because it's pretty, but the game is bad, but it's pretty.
uh,
um,
someone that's in the chat, Neon Lord, he was on recently, and happen to have his book. So the art isn't necessarily perfect or pretty, but the art
No, but
matches the
yeah.
tone of the game.
I mean, I look at this cover and I instantly know what
Yes,
the like place and the setting. I know it. Like I look at it and I'm like, okay, this
you
is like some
you know
sort
what
of
you're getting into with
yeah,
with
it's
that
like this
cover.
is some sort of Fallout, Mad Max kind of thing with
Yeah, yeah.
weird people and weird characters.
And that something like that's very important. And then I've got this game from 1984.
Yeah, it's simple, but
Yeah,
it's not ugly. Like
no, it's not. I mean, it's for the day,
yeah,
it's great, but the name, and then this would have been a very like sci-fi cover of the day. So this fits for the
yeah.
day, but inside there's kind of there's very little art.
Yeah, that's another thing that we wanted to do as well. I mean, it's cool to have a lot of text and things, but it it makes for a very heavy thing to read when there's no art, no illustration, no nothing. It makes it pretty heavy.
It
Uh,
does. And then because then you end up going far more into detail to describe something than you need to. You're just kind of droning on about the look of something when a good picture will be like, hey,
okay, I know it. Like you look at it, you say, okay, this is it, and you don't have to think twice about
yeah,
what it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, art is important, I suppose, but it doesn't do everything. But it's something important also to have. I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but people like it when it exists.
yes, it sells it'll sell your game. It'll enhance it. And like I said, I've seen plenty of uh, bad games with good art that sell. But I mean, so if anybody watching goes to ArkelonChronicles.com, they can go to races and see, and they can see some of the art because the art is actually really good. But they can see the wide variety of the how do you the mubasas
Yeah,
the, uh, so the they crack me up because especially the Banteng, the art on that particular one just makes me laugh so much.
honestly, I think it's one of our favorite character. We really like them because yeah, each character have like this little backstory and things that we're trying to put in there too, just because we want them to be really unique in themselves. Uh, so yeah, I mean, we really want to have like all these characters that represents well what they are, but they're not like the generic thing that you could see like the static pose and just like, okay, I am a human, so I am in T pose there, and you can see I am a human. Okay, but how can we bring this to be interesting more than that? Like, how can we bring this to something that is not okay? There's a T pose of something that has no clothes, no nothing, and this is what you're gonna play. Like, we really
Like,
wanted to give them personalities.
yeah, and it's funny because like D&D Third Edition was kind of that first one to do the generic lineup of all the races in
Yeah,
loincloths, and it was really cool at the time. But like so many people have just copied that. You see that
yeah,
a
and
bunch.
it's interesting in one page. Like, you have the one page that you can have to just do like, okay, this is everything and blah blah blah. But you can do more after that. Like, show them in action, show something that it's
Yeah,
cool. Like, I don't want to play a human in a loincloth. That's not inspiring to me.
Here was the one I was looking for. Been clicking through your the von Char, the Hyra. It's a moose.
Yes,
It's the most
yes.
Canadian character I've seen.
Yeah, actually, this one has a fun story about it because we're from Quebec, and there's like one show that is really popular here. That was some sort of sci-fi show, but it was really low budget, and they were using motocross gear to do the sci-fi armor. So we inspired his look on the show. Uh,
Nice.
so it's really actually similar to what was on the show back then. So it's really funny. It's just a little like nod to the Quebec thing, and with like the moose and super Canadian thing.
What's the most Canadian thing? A moose. Well, a moose in hockey gear would probably be slightly more Canadian.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably yes. Using the hockey gear would be
yeah,
like the 100% Canadian Quebec version of
but
this.
the I was clicking through earlier, looking through this, and this one cracked me up. And I couldn't remember the name of it, but yeah, it is really cool because you do have so many different. I mean, in races within, and then within there you have your heritage. So, I mean, you've got like the shardlings, and then you've got in there you've got diamonds, quartz, sulfate. Then I like the tainted. So that could be a mix of is like a mix of different things, which could be really cool. I mean, there's such a variety. At any time, are you guys worried about having too much in your book?
For a while, we were like, okay, do we have too much, or is it like a lot and everything? But we went through a lot of playtests within and outside of the team, and we were asking people like, do you think we should remove some, or like, put some in other extension books later or whatever. But most of the people were like, but if this one is gone, what will I play, because it's my favorite one. And like, we have one test group that is youth in LGBT center for uh, youth that have difficulties and everything. So it's like a youth home for them, and they play like each week for like 2 years, I think. um, and they're like, but I don't want you to remove any because I'm so attached to them now. Like, they are.
That
Um,
and that's the rough thing is when you get a good core of playtesters, sometimes they can get attached to things. Because I love the variety, but it is a lot for an initial book. And I probably would have suggested it to have cut it down before you guys gone to Kickstarter, but you guys already gone to Kickstarter, and everyone's expecting that.
yeah, we before the Kickstarter, like, everything was quite written down, like uh, all of their lores and all of their traits and everything. Um, and we had a way to like put together the character creation part to make it pretty easy for people to not have to read through everything the first time they play. We have like laid out some ways to uh, fill out. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. To fill out the character sheet. Like, the first time you play, you usually play with someone that knows it a little bit, or someone that actually read it more. And we put together a way, like, with some summaries of the different races and classes, so you can just go through these tables and say, okay, I like this, and now I follow this tutorial, and I made my character sheet in like 15 minutes.
Nice.
So
Okay, that's good. And then that was going to be my because you guys have so many choices. My question was, have you guys streamlined character creation? Because a lot of times, games that have a lot of choices, you end up just with tons and tons of choices, and it makes character creation forever. But it sounds like
yeah,
you guys have done smart.
yeah. I mean, we have like we've had new players making sheets. I think it was last week. We had like a new person making his sheet, and I think it took him like maybe 30 minutes because he has ADHD and it's very difficult for him to like concentrate. And it took him 30 minutes, so it's not that bad. And then after that test, we are looking through a way to streamline it even more to be sure that people with the same issue can go through the tutorial in um, an easier kind of way, so they can complete it pretty fast.
Nice. Um, so what have been some issues you've had to overcome in the creation?
Um, well, there's some like I myself, I'm possibly not neurodivergent. I don't know. I don't have like any diagnosis regarding that. But we have. Oh, I'm sorry. I knock off my webcam. But we have team members, like we have a majority of team members that have like autism and ADHD. So we are really trying to base some of the ways to explain things based on these traits, because each have uh, different ways of presenting these issues. So we are really trying to, okay, so now I wrote the thing, and there are some ways that I could probably explain them in an easier way, like making bullet points instead of like paragraphs and things like that. Because for me, it's simple. Like I understand it written in more uh, bigger paragraphs, but for them, it's easier to understand in bullet points. But for me, I mean, it's not either ways. It's the same, like it's the same character sheet, it's the same process, it's just more concise and easier to understand. So we are now like reworking the character sheet tutorial to make it easier to read, making it more concise and easier to follow, so people that have more difficulties reading through big paragraphs of text can just go, okay, so now first I do this and it's done, and then continue on to the next step and the next step and until it's finished.
I like that, and I like that you guys are, because with the library we get a lot of people that they usually the everybody started off with D&D, so they're like, well, I've played D&D and I didn't like it, and then we ask them a series of questions. And one of the things that I've asked people, well, through less asking questions but through conversation with them, I try to kind of gauge their ability to grasp large chunks of information, and I
Mm-hmm.
might steer them away from something like a riffs over to something else that's going to have a similar format, but or a similar theme that they might like, but is going to be an easier digestible rule set, because not everybody's the same. So it's always trying to find something that fits different players.
Yes,
That's
and
why I
that
love having thousands of games out there.
yeah, and that's why I mean we have like so many different people on the team, because that's something that we really enjoy. It's like I'm like I don't have any like neurodivergence versus other people on the team, but like me, I'm gonna write something and I'm like, okay, that's pretty clear for me, that's fine. And then one of the other people would write it, and I'm like, and he's like, okay, it's fine, I understand, but someone that has the issue is stronger than me probably wouldn't understand, because there's so much information that it's too complicated. So I go there, I just rewrite it in a simpler and more concise way, so then it's easier to understand and easier to follow.
So it's funny, in the military. I was trained as a broadcaster, and I worked with photojournalists, and they're taught to fill space, and I was taught to write so that somebody could hear my message one time. So it'd be hilarious. I would get something from a photojournalist, and it's got all these big words and everything in it, and I'm like, hey, I can't use any of those. They're like, why not? I was like, if somebody's reading something online, they can highlight it and go definition and see what you're meaning. But if I'm putting something out for a video, they're going to hear it, one time. I can't use triskaidekaphobia. But
Yeah, probably they won't know what it
yeah,
is.
I will literally say, hey, the person had a fear of the number 13, because in the article they're going to use triskaidekaphobia because it takes up less space and somebody can and look it up. But if you're doing a product that somebody's trying to consume, like a role playing game, if they don't
Yeah,
grasp the if you're talking just above their head, they're gonna be like, okay, next, and I'll look at the pretty
yeah,
pictures and move on.
yeah, exactly. And that's why we want to try to use like all the different um, all the different strengths and weaknesses of every one of the team to like. I mean, we don't have like every problem that could exist in the world and like every kind of issues that everyone can have, but we are trying as much as we are able to
Yeah,
accommodate as much as we can. Like with the youth home that we're working with, like these people, there are other different things there that are like, okay, I wrote to this and I don't really understand it. Oh, I'm colorblind and you use that color and I cannot see it. So like, okay, I'm gonna change the color of that. Like in the book, we tried to use mostly orange and blue because they're the most different colors that are usually not a problem to any colorblind people. So that's a member of the team that just passed behind. But yeah, we're trying to use like mostly orange and blue. Like that's why most of the designs in the games are orange and blue. Like the backgrounds and everything is orange and blue because people can see its different colors, and it's different enough so people can actually see that there are variations in there, and it's like colored and it's cool instead of just being a blurry mess of brown or gray or however they can see.
yeah. Colorblind is one of the things that I've been really intrigued by, because I find out there's so many people that don't even necessarily know they're colorblind,
Yeah,
and they're like, well, this is a bad layout, and they'll they'll move on to another book, and it's just because one color is off, and they never know that they are, because a lot of people are just minorly colorblind, that are colorblind in and it makes things, for lack of a better term, ugly.
yeah, and that's probably the little part about like most of the team are QA testers in video games at their day job, so it's like the little QA part that are like, okay, but if in video games colorblind is a problem, like why wouldn't it be a problem in a role playing
Yeah.
games, like in a book, in a layout? Like why wouldn't it be also a problem? Like if there are two similar greens put together, like why why is this um like why is this useful? Like why would I do this?
So somebody asked a question, says, as a non-neurodivergent person, what was something that blew your mind when making adjustments to the game?
um hmm.
So, like, for me, like the first time I ever thought about looking at color stuff for colorblind people, like that blew my mind. I mean, that's not it's a little different area that is what's being asked, but I never even thought about color blindness. And then looking back at some books made in the late '80s, oh man, some of those books would be a mess for people that are colorblind.
They would probably just run through this and say, oh my god, I'm gonna die. But I think one of the things that I enjoyed about it, well, that someone brought up that I was thinking about it, but I was like, okay, it's fine. I don't really care myself. It's putting. Someone came forth saying that they would probably prefer having the rules of the game before creating characters and everything like that. Like in most D&D and Pathfinder, it's mostly at the end. Like you create your characters and then you know how to play the game. And like a lot of the people that we tested the game with, mostly from the youth home that we're working with, and one of the developers that are playing with these younger people, they are autistic, and they were like, okay, but I myself, as a game master for these people, I don't like having to go through page 800 millions to look at one rule. Like, why can it be at page 45 when I can just open the book and it's there? Um, so it was something that came a lot of times. And for me, I mean, I was used to Pathfinder, and I was used to D&D, and I was used to other games, and it came so many times. I was like, but what if we do it and then we switched chapters a bit? And while going through it again, I was like, yeah, it reads better because, I mean, creating character, if you know the game, it's kind of easier to just, so okay, is this a game for me, or if am I just looking at pretty characters and I don't enjoy what the game is about, like what the game is.
Yeah, there's a reason why character creation is typically early on in books is it's what gets people hooked.
Yeah,
Because you'll find many games will put character creation as the like the first thing that you get into rules wise. There'll be like a little fluff, background to the game, and then you get into character creation, and everybody's like, okay, I'm hooked. I want to make a character, and then they care about the rules.
yeah, and sometimes you can go through the rules and I'm like, okay, I made a cool character, but now I don't like the game, so well, that's sad.
Yeah,
um, but we
I have
have
run
like
I have run into those games where you're like, dude, character creation in this game is great. Oh god, the rest of this game is just horrible. Played a
um,
few of those.
yeah, and that's why we did it, because it came forward so many times that we were like, okay, I mean, at this point, like 5, 10 people told us that they found this better. So I mean, why not try it? And like everyone was like, oh my god, this is such a cool idea because I preferred it that way. And anyway, we have so many visuals and illustrations that we can just put them there
Yeah,
anyway. Like if we don't have character creation there are other things that we can put there to be visually interesting.
yeah,
So um, people can still see and enjoy like the visual of the game and say, oh my god, this is cool, without being, okay, I created my character, but this is not the game for me, so now I'm sad.
yeah. I think the other successful way it's done less, but the other successful way for putting character creation is kind of like your last bit of oh, an ad just come up on my watching the chat on my phone, and an ad just come up on it for Twitch. Oh, this is awesome. So the other successful way has been uh, like kind of the last set of rules. Like, hey, now that you know how to play the game, let's make a character,
Yeah,
and you put that at the end, and you make it. And a lot of them will like color code the different sections, and they'll color code off the character creation portion so that people can find it very quickly.
yeah. That's the thing that we will try to do, like in the final game. We did it a bit with the playtest version, putting links to things so people can just click and, oh my god, you're there, like with the PDF and everything. We really want to make it super 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 interactive, to be sure that it's really easy to use, because now it would seem that a lot of people play online. Like some people like to have the physical books because it's cool, but like we do a PDF. Like, why not make it the most useful thing that can be, instead of being like a messy clog of text,
Yes.
and be just a copy of the uh, physical version, put like there, and you get a PDF that is just basically a book. We want to put links and like maybe try to go see how it works on phone. Be sure it works for phone, it works for tablets. Try to put links to go like, oh, you have to, I don't know, select your things and go to page X. Well, page X would be a link to the actual page, and if there's a condition or whatever, like if there's a way to like highlight it and it's just written what it does, so you don't have to go through the book and find it somewhere. um, like just try to make it the most useful we can make it, so it's not just a copy of the physical book, and it's not
Yeah.
as useful as it could be.
I've gotten frustrated because a couple of PDFs that have been sent to the library have been non-search, like weren't even searchable PDFs. So like it was basically just pictures of their book
Yeah,
slapped into a PDF. And I'm like, it sounds like you guys are actually taking a little more time and effort to build out your PDF so that it is a useful tool.
yeah, because
I love physical books because people retain information from a physical book better. But I also love having PDFs of books so that especially oh hey, I need to look up a rule. You can look it up real quick, and then you can. I don't know how many times I'll look up a rule in a PDF, like, okay, page 47, then I'll go to page 47 of the book and read the rule.
yeah, and that's kind of why we want to put it the most useful that we can. Is because uh, I while testing the game and stuff, like we use a Google Doc. Like we don't even use the playtest PDF because there's not everything in there. So we use a Google Doc, and even in the Google Docs, there are links and chapter places that we can click to just reach everything simply. So I'm like, why do could we have access to this and players outside of the team would have to search manually for everything? Like, to me it's just something that is absolutely dumb. um, so like, why would we have access to this in a Google Doc, and people that use the PDF to actually play the game for real would have to go through it manually to search for everything?
Nice. Um, my phone is telling me that we're taking an ad break, even though we're not taking an ad break. Um, okay, I got to dig through Twitch because this is new. I have not seen all these commercials and everything pop up. They must have changed something. But apparently, at the beginning of March, they made a whole bunch of changes to Twitch. So they probably turned ads on everybody's channels, and we haven't found
Yeah,
any.
that's possible. I mean, it's been a while since we streams because we don't have time. We're like trying to finish up everything, so it's been a while since we streamed stuff. So I cannot say, but there seems to be some little changes that have been done
Yeah.
here and there, probably.
So you said most of the people in your team work in computer gaming, or well, in digital
Yeah,
gaming. So
yeah.
what made you guys get together and go, hey, let's do a tabletop RPG? Because
Well,
that's same but different lane.
yeah. Well, we've been knowing each other for 10 years, probably. Easily, like everybody on the team have been knowing each other for 10 years, and probably more for others. And we've been playing together, D&D, Pathfinder, and other games together for a long time. And eventually we started doing more of our like homebrew things, like everyone that just eventually you're like, okay, I'm not satisfied with this, I'm not satisfied with that, and at a certain point we're just saying, okay, but we're not satisfied with like everything, so why don't we just make a game at this point? Like using what we did as homebrew thing and just expanded it to make something different at this point, because we were like, okay, but why, like we're changing mostly everything, so at this point, like, why why don't we just do our own thing instead?
Yeah, well, and that's it's cool because that's how games a lot of games start. Sometimes you get somebody like, I bet I could create a game, but you get so one that we donated books to the library and trying to get on the channel a game called Zweihander. He played the
Hmm.
old Warhammer RPG that they stopped making in like 1998, and he just kept playing it, kept making changes, and everybody's like, "Look, your game is different enough. Why don't you just sell it?" So he sat down
Yeah,
and finished fleshing everything out, and now he's not only got Zweihander, he's got like two expansions. Then he made Zweihander a core system so that other like he's got a setting for Revolutionary War now. It's like, but it all started with just the same way that you guys did. It was making changes to a system that he'd been playing, and then it was finally different enough. Like, oh, this is its own game.
Yeah, and it seems to be a lot of RPG project seems to be starting that way also. Like people are just, okay, I'm playing D&D. Some people will just make D&D homebrews for their whole life, and it's fine. I mean, we are still doing D&D homebrew things. We are still doing monsters for D&D. We're still doing classes for D&D. We're still playing Pathfinder first edition. I mean, we're still like playing things that we were enjoying before and that we still enjoy now. But at the same time, we decided to just, okay, we'll continue to do things we enjoy because we like it. But at the same time, we have our own game that we want to make and our own like world. And at the same time, like we were like, okay, is it could this be a D&D thing? And we were like, okay, but at the same time, we have to change so many things in D&D that at this point, like, okay, we'll just start our own thing and not bother with, okay, is this fitting with D&D? Is this working with D&D? We're just like, okay.
Well, and then I like how you guys said you're still playing first edition Pathfinder, because last week we were just talking about Roll20, and they put out their numbers that they had been collecting. Like how many like, and it was only like 55% were playing D&D, but then you broke it down, and there were more people playing Pathfinder First Edition than there were people playing Pathfinder Second Edition.
Yeah, we're still playing first edition, where we want to finish our campaign before trying the second one. Like we started the campaign before COVID started, and then we stopped playing because our DM have kids, and online games are something that is not fun with them because Jesus Christ. But and then we started again after we could see people again. So
Yeah,
we want to finish like at least the campaign that we started before with Pathfinder First Edition, because it's like we did all campaigns that are related to the Rule Lords in Pathfinder. So we want to finish the Rule Lords like uh,
that
story and everything. So
that was something I give tons of credit to Pathfinder. They have created a huge immersive world, and tons of stuff out there for it.
we still enjoy playing other things. I mean, like I said, we play a bit of Pathfinder First Edition. We played D&D 5. We played a bit of D&D 4 back in the days. It's not a favorite game, but there are some okay things in it that we enjoyed as a mini games more than it's a role playing game. But like
I,
we have a couple of other RPGs here, like Coyotes and Crows that we received like I think last week. We
yep.
have 30 Sword Lesbians that is really cool and really like the art of this. And like we played a couple of other RPGs. Like we're not only in D&D and Pathfinder, like we do other things.
We're gonna get
And
the designer for Coyote and Crow on stream soon.
yeah, that's really cool.
He just gave it.
Honestly,
I was
I
met him at Gamma last week, and he gave us a copy of the book. So
yeah.
super excited because, and looking through it, oh man, that book it's gorgeous, well laid out, and love the world that he's created.
Yeah,
I
it's really cool. It's really cool. We have like we received the PDF a while ago, and I was like, this book is great. I really like it. And like we have two indigenous people on the team, and they're like, oh my god, I like this book. It's really cool. It's really good. I like it. It's amazing. So it's
yeah,
nice.
I love it when anybody's willing to take the mythology of different cultures and turn it, because we've seen lately there's been a ton of Norse. I mean, even though Norse mythology is probably one of my favorites, but it's
Hmm.
kind of being overdone within RPGs.
Yeah.
And I love that he took all the mythology of different native cultures here in the Americas, and then I'm looking forward to people doing the same with like Japan and China or Korea,
Yeah,
because
uh, that's
there's
really
some,
nice.
yeah, fingers crossed that that's going to happen soon. Um,
Yeah, I really hope so because like this is something that we enjoyed as a team, like culture and different of things, um, and we really try like the most of our knowledge and like people that we work with and collaborate with, like as much as we can, to respectfully depict every single culture that we are inspiring ourselves from, because this is something that is really important to us as a team, we that what we do remains in like an area of respect from what we are inspiring ourselves from. We try to not copy things like 100% copy things, but we still like what we take inspiration from. We still try to keep it extremely respectful from what and where it's from, because we don't want to or to be just like, okay, so we are inspiring these from black people and they are dumb and stupid. Okay, but this is bad. Like, why would anybody do this? Like, it's 2022, please, no. Like like,
yeah.
no.
Well, that's
uh,
that's the thing is like, and you guys have such a wide variety of things that you can choose, and it looks like you has, from what I've seen so far, is you've been able to, you know, you're taking all the things that have inspired you and doing it in a positive light.
we try as much as we can, and like we are open to like discussing too. Like, we're not okay, but this is our vision and shut up. Like, I mean, if someone like come and say, oh, did you think about insert something here, and we're like, oh no, we didn't, but it's really cool, and then we just try to do something with it because it's very important to X or Y culture. Or like someone say, oh, I really like this, did you know that this creature exists in my folklore and it's really nice? And I'm like, no, I didn't, but now I know and it's really great.
Well,
um,
and that's kind of cool because then you can incorporate stuff like that in future books.
yeah.
But also remember that you'll never please everyone.
No, that is something that we know about. Like, we're like, okay, so we want to do something that remains nice, because I mean, um we're all in the team, like 100% of the team is like minorities. So I'm like, I'm not gonna just be disrespectful of anybody, because like bluntly disrespectful, because I mean, it's just stupid.
Yeah,
But like, I know that we cannot please everybody, and that's something that I've been learning a lot since I work in video games. Like, the even the best video games that will ever be released will always have that one people that is like, okay, but it sucks.
and
So
and for some reason or another, that tiny group of people that hate whatever you're doing, they're the loudest.
yeah,
Uh,
exactly, and that will always be like this. And at a certain point, you have to pick things, like be intelligent with what you receive as criticism or as whatever people say, and like, is this relevant to me? And if it's not, I don't care. Like, at a certain point, if someone is articulate and wants to criticize your things, that's really nice. I mean, you can criticize things without being just an idiot. Like,
yes,
you can, yeah, critics.
constructive. You got constructive criticism and destructive, and if you're just like, well, your product's stupid, well, okay, thank you, have a great day.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, okay, or I hate it. Okay,
Yeah,
but
but
can you
hey,
explain, like, why, how,
yeah,
what do you hate? Like, I want to know, because
exactly.
that's a thing that I made and that I want to make better. So
Yeah,
if you just say it is bad, well, to me that means nothing. Like I don't care about it
Yeah, and
because
then you get somebody like, hey, I was looking through the classes, and this particular class didn't make sense, or like it didn't fit the setting. Can you explain like why you chose this, or how this works better, or like maybe I'm not understanding? Because like you get because you will get stuff like that, and that's the
yeah,
good stuff because maybe you didn't quite explain it right, or um, it happens in almost every rule set. There's a little piece that, as you've talked to people about playtesting and stuff, you might have explained it better than you wrote it. And then when it gets in the hands of somebody that you're not talking to, they read through it and they're like, it just doesn't quite click. Um,
yeah,
and
and
good.
that's something that it's interesting too. Like someone that is coming forward and saying, okay, like for example in D&D or whatever, they're like, okay, I don't like the, I don't know, the cleric because this and this makes no sense. And for me it's not something that I don't understand the rules on how to play a cleric, for example. Then okay, that's a nice thing to say because I'm like, okay, for me it was clear, but if for you it's not, like how can I make it so it's simpler for you to understand? But if you just like cleric sucks, okay,
Yeah.
that's nice, but this doesn't help me in any way.
For me, I always tell everybody bards suck in D&D.
That can be bars that can be replaced by bars, that fighter, by everything. Like can be replaced by anything. But like I think there are ways to like criticize things
my
while
my personal issue with bards
remaining.
is so many people play them badly. Uh,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
everybody plays like almost everybody plays like the same type of bard, and it's just like, can you be interesting with your bard, please?
yeah.
Uh,
That honestly, like this is a little side story about like Arkelon in general. It's that I personally don't like Bard. Like this is a class that I really hate and that I never played before. I never play a Bard. I never do anything remotely close to a Bard. Instead of like, despite one NPC once because I didn't choose what it was. It was an NPC that was assigned to me because my character was dating her, so it was like my NPC and she was a Bard, and I was like, okay, so I have to play a bard. This is like I'm forced to play a bard. This is the thing. But so at first I didn't wanted to put bards in Arkelon. This is something that I really didn't want it. And people that played this the game was like, but I like bards. Why won't you make bards? And I was like, oh my god. And everyone was like, but I want bards. And I was like, I don't like bards. What do I do with them? But I think that I was able to create something. Well, I try to think that I was able to create something that um, used the concept of a bard in a different way that what we usually see and make their gameplay more active and interesting than just playing an instrument or speaking during combat and magically doing things, like trying to bring this. And I actually enjoy the bards that we made, and I actually played one, so I suppose that it's cool. But the only real bard I played in other systems was a NPC that was assigned to me.
the only bard that hasn't been killed in all the D&D games I've played over the years was during D&D third edition. Everybody's putting their stuff together, and I go around the table what everybody's making, and the guy goes bard, and I was like, I tend to kill bards because they're played so badly, and he's like, oh no, I know. And then, I go, okay, is everybody done? And they start sliding me their papers, and I look. So under his performance, he put mime.
Okay.
So instead of being like playing music or whatever, he would mime out his spells. So I gave him silent spell for free,
Okay.
and then he wrote down and gave me a list of like, okay, to cast, charm person, I have to do this, and he's
Okay.
like,
That.
he'd be like, okay, I cast, and then he would mime it out, and people at the table like, wait, oh god, what is he casting? I don't know what that is.
I mean, in a certain way, that's kind of cool. That's kind of nice. It's different. It's
it
like
it was probably the most entertaining because there was like he would actually mime it out instead of saying what he was doing. So there was a bit of role play in it, and then he got the rest of the party involved because they were like, "Oh God, I'm watching him. I need to know what he's casting," because he refused to tell them what it was. And then
okay.
once
So you had to like
you had to
uh,
actually pay attention to what he was
okay.
doing, and it was hilarious. And that character has stuck with me because he took a character that people play so poorly or so generically over and over and over again, and he flipped it on its head and just had a blast with it. And I'm looking through yours. I'm guessing your bard is the performer class,
Yeah.
where you've
Exactly.
got dancers, musician, or trickster. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's a ton of ways that you can go with that. So you, instead of calling it a bard and everybody kind of pigeonholed to what they think a bard is, you guys opened it up to something bigger.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. We try to include like more dance that is more like inspired by like the Hakka dance and different kind of dance that are used in more in different culture that like calls up elemental powers and like water, fire, and things like that. Like with the musician, it's more like the usual bard thing where you have a magic instruments and you do like notes, and with notes it becomes something stronger, and you can buff your party or deal damage with your magic instrument or use them to confuse enemies or put things on your allies, whatever it is. And the trickster is more about being uh, like a magician kind of thing, like card tricks and illusion magic and things like that. So it's more like a semi magic, semi sleight of hand class that is more about tricking other people and doing different kind of things. With either magic or just sleight of hand. So we really try to bring different kind of like interesting ways to be a bard without just being the horny bard archetypes, I suppose. Like having different kind of things that you
yeah,
can.
there's another Canadian-made RPG called Endless Realms.
Yes.
They've got a class called Dancer.
Yeah, I have the book of Endless Realms. Is It's one of the first like Canadian other things that we found out there. We've been following them for I don't even know how long.
Yeah,
uh,
it's like 4 years, 5 years now that
yeah,
their game's been out.
we we've been following them. I think before even the Kickstarter was launched, and like we were making some call out to them and things like that to on our Twitter pages, like when the Kickstarter launched and everything, and we were like, oh my god, someone other than us are doing something here, and it was cool. I have the book still. It's really nice. um,
Has some cool art. I like that it's a D10, so it's not it's not a copy and paste of other systems, and it's not
yeah,
a D10 the way that most people think generic.
yeah,
It's D10 in a different way that D10s are used, without going into like depth of the game. But yeah, Christy and her team are pretty awesome. And sadly, with COVID, they haven't been able to come to the states for events. And we actually have a
yeah.
bunch of their books in our storage area. So to help save them some cash when they had books shipped to the U.S. So instead of paying duties to bring them across the border from Canada, they had some shipped to the States. They picked them up, and then after event, they put them in our storage. And
Yeah,
as soon as COVID's
we
over and they can come back to as
yeah,
soon as
probably.
events are, yeah. Their plans are to get back to events and start selling books again.
Yeah, that's something we wanted to do. Normally, actually, we were supposed to launch everything. Like the Kickstarter was supposed to launch in 2020, and we were supposed to release it in 2021. And then we had our Kickstarter April 11th, 2021, because COVID happened. Like before that, we're like, okay, there are other things, and we cannot like release it now. So we continued. Um, like we I was distracted by something and I forgot what I was saying. But um, we pushed about the Kickstarter a bit because we're like, okay, we have other things to put together, and we launched it in April of 2021, like when COVID was just beginning a little. And we were like, okay, this thing is gonna last like what, a month, and it's gonna be fine and everything will be okay. But that's not how it happens. So we finished a Kickstarter, and then everything was becoming worse and worse and worse, and we were like, "Oh my god, what is happening?" So we had like plans. We were like, "Okay, we're gonna go. Like the Kickstarter is finished, and we're gonna go to Quebec Comic Con, and maybe go to Montreal Comic Con. We don't know." And then we were planning a lot of things, and then everything shut down, and we were like, why did we do the Kickstarter now? Because we cannot go anywhere
Yeah,
with our things.
I was coming home from Iraq at that time, and we were looking. And we're like, just as all of it started, we're like, oh man, we'll be by the time we get home, everything will be open. Yeah, no, we got home.
Yeah, that.
April Fool's Day of 2020. What a day to get home, and
Yeah.
we were like, well, this is interesting. Someone in the chat said they were it's Gwen from the Discord server and said
Yeah,
apologize for doing
yeah.
that.
I speak with them a little bit. We have a lot of people, but we have a couple of people on the Discord server that are really nice, and we speak a lot about like with them a bit. So it's cool to have like a little community of people that we can speak with. Uh,
Yeah, we've got
and
a Discord and a Gilded server, and I love having those because it's where we get volunteers to help us out at events. So we're always looking for GMs to help us out at conventions, and as we grow over the next couple of years, we'll need more. So, and maybe we'll be coming up to Canadian conventions within the next
maybe
year or so.
maybe
Um,
now that we can, I don't know, get out, I guess.
Yeah, we so
uh,
before all the COVID, we had somebody took a portion to a gaming convention. Shucks, it's in Vancouver, BC. So, and we've been invited to the library's been invited to a bunch of different conventions throughout Canada that we would love to get to here in the future, but well, as soon as everything opens back up and we can figure out the funding to get up there, because taking 1,500 pounds of books to a convention halfway across the continent is rough.
yeah, it is. Like as I said, we were like, so it was crazy because like we launched the Kickstarter on April 11th, and at that moment we were like really planning on everything. We were like, okay, we have like everything ready to go to like Comic-Con, and we'll be having like the pre-order thing that was ready, and we were like, okay, people would be able to buy the books at the Comic-Con, and we were super excited. And then uh, everything closed, and we were like, okay, now how do we do this? Like everything is closed now, so we cannot go out, we cannot like market anything because we cannot go anywhere. So it was, yeah, we were like, how do we do this now? Like we cannot go anywhere, we cannot go to conventions, we cannot like market it in the real world now, so we have to like market it through Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, and try to like, I don't know, like try to find other ways. And yeah, it was something that is we had to make some adjustment to everything after
Well,
that.
yeah, and with all that, that's where we started these the interviews, because it's like, hey, we can't get out and about, but we can still try to do something. So we've done some gameplay. We've invited people to come and run their games on the stream or on our channel, so that they can, if they don't have a Twitch or they don't have a way to get the game out, it's a way for them to, our reach isn't huge, but it's growing. And I love having people come on and showcase new things for people to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way to like adapt and like overcome the problems that COVID created. And but like at the moment, like now we're fine. Like we're just okay, this is part of life now and it's nice. But at that single moment, like COVID really started to like go out of ends in the middle of our Kickstarter, and we were like, what does this means now? Like, do people will still like pledge because it's fine, or will we be forced to relaunch because people have no money now because everybody was like panicking and it was super crazy? So we had like planned everything, like we were really close to funding at this point, and we were like, okay, do we really have to relaunch because COVID decided to just crap on everything, and people are just like not like, everybody was panicking and everyone was like, oh my god, we have no money, we cannot work, we blah blah blah, and it was super crazy. And like we had planned everything for a relaunch, like later we had planned like all the documents, all everything. We were like, okay, we have to be ready in case of this COVID thing goes super crazy and everything. But it ended up going fine. Like after that, people like pledged again and it was good, but for a little while we were worried, but then it was fine after that.
I just look at it. It gave you more time to make the product a little more refined.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, at a point like now, we are like aiming at the same release date that we were supposed to at first. Um, all project goes in a way that sometimes how it wants to go. So for now, it's fine. We will be able to probably reach our normal deadline that we're supposed to reach. But I mean, it's a project that was launched and created by a team of like 3.5 people during COVID. So like artists and everything, it was super crazy. Like our main artist is from Italy, and like COVID there was the something that was completely crazy, and it killed like so many people, and it was horrendous. So we're like, okay, we're now the same date, but if something happens, like I do believe that people can understand that there could be some delays with the the storyline that went through the world during these last years.
Well, and I have to say, I love how a lot of people have come together, and I've talked about this on some of our news streams and stuff about how people have over the last couple of years that have stopped playing RPGs because they have
Yeah,
found a virtual tabletop. They stopped playing RPGs years ago, and because of the popularity of virtual tabletops like Roll20, because I mean Roll20 during the pandemic doubled. They went from 5 million to 10 million accounts, which
yeah,
is
it
huge.
was crazy.
So you have a lot of people that found a way to play RPGs, no matter what, and then you found people that found their way back into playing RPGs, which I
Yeah,
have thought has been really cool. And I've got my fingers crossed that the virtual stuff still keeps going strong, so that you have a lot of people that Because I know a ton of people that want to play, but they come home from work and they want to spend time with family. Like, hey, I want to spend a few hours a week playing RPGs, but because I got to drive a half hour to your house, and then we're going to take an hour to get going, and then we're going to play for 2 hours. Then I'm going to have a half hour drive home, and it's like that. I'm gone from my family for a long time to only play for a couple hours, but they can sit down at their computer and play for 4 hours, get twice the play time with none of the travel, and then they can still be there for their family, if needed. So I love what stuff like Roll20 has opened up for people.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities that open for, like, even people, like, not that don't have friends, but like that friends that live very far away from them, or like one of the team member went studying in Korea for like 5 years, and like, I mean, he was playing with his friends here in Quebec using
Nice.
virtual tabletops. So like, it's something that should be staying after. Well, I hope that stays, because it's not just playing games like online. It's like, if you cannot see your friends, it's a way to play with them, even
Yeah.
if, like, I mean, even us, we're still using virtual tabletop. Like, uh, if someone is like, okay, I cannot come to your place, but I can play. Well, okay, then we'll play online, and it's fine. Like,
Yeah. And I've played with people in different parts of the U.S. Haven't really played too much with people from other countries at the moment, but we've done it because of what we can do right now. I've interviewed people from all over the world now. Uh, you know, all throughout Europe, Brazil, well, Canada. You guys are so far away. Uh,
yeah,
but it's the technology is awesome for people to keep playing and be able to have a lot of fun with something they love and keep in contact. Because I mean, to be honest, if we would have had something like this in the early 2000s, as I had friends move away when I was active duty military, I would have been playing with them for years to come.
yeah, exactly. Like,
Now I'm trying to get
uh,
them into playing again.
yeah, yeah. I mean, with even now, like, as I said, we're using still virtual tabletop sometimes, because like, when we only want to test things out, or like, I'm not gonna make people that live 30 minutes away come here for like an hour or two, so we're just logging in the virtual tabletop. Okay, we're gonna try this and that. Or, oh, I cannot come because I don't know reasons, I broke my leg or something. Like, we're just playing uh, online. It's just
They can pull out their phone
not.
and play from the hospital.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a thing. I mean, I personally prefer like in-person games. I think it's like easier and faster most of the time. But I mean, virtual tabletops now are getting better and better. So they are starting to be less of a clog than they were like 2, 3, 4 years ago. So they
They
are
are, yeah.
easier and easier to use, and you don't have to code like everything so it works into something. Like, now you mostly can just log in and play, and if you don't want to use fancy things, you just use slash roll something, and you're ready to go. Like, it's not, you can even like print your character sheet and put it on your desk and just roll your dice when you need them, and don't even use the virtual tabletop that much if you want.
I may or may not do that on when I stream on Wednesdays. Um, because yeah, it's funny as big into technology as I am. Roll20 kicks my butt sometimes. So getting the dice to roll how I want them to, I was like, you know what? Great, I have dice on my desk. I'm just going to roll them. So what was your
uh,
first role playing game you played?
the first role-playing games the first role-playing game that I played was D&D 3.5. It was like 11 or 12 years ago, I think. Like, I didn't really play role playing games before, but I wanted to. And I was working at Burger King with other people that played role playing games, and eventually they said, "Oh, I need. Do you want to try?" Because blah blah blah. And then we played like for one night, and I didn't really play much after that. And eventually, like the same person were came back to me and was like, "Oh, my friend is starting a Pathfinder game. Do you want to play in it?" And I'm like, "But I don't know your friend." And it was like, "Oh, it's nice, blah blah blah." And like we started to play, and like I would say that the first game that I played was 2.5, but the first game that I actually played for a extended period of time was Pathfinder First Edition.
Nice. I always like to hear where people kind of started in playing RPGs because sometimes you get some really interesting ones. I mean, we get a lot of versions of D&D, but every now and then you get something that you just kind of catch me off guard. Oh, that's where you started, and it's always neat to hear. Um, I mean, I started with D&D, but I started with first edition D&D back in the early 1980s when I was knee high to a grasshopper. But my brother was 9 years older than me, so my brother was 13 at the time, and being a teenager, really getting into playing RPGs back in the early days, just before the Satanic Panic happened.
Yeah, that's
Um,
what I wanted. That was I was about to ask. Like, was it before or
it
after?
was just before that. In fact, my family, we had a comic book store, and we had trouble getting D&D in the store because all the distributors were sending them to Sears and Toys R Us, and they had little end caps of it. So, in fact, bought my first book from Sears, and then they would send them to hobby stores, and they straight up told my family like, "Hey, there's no crossover between these games and comic books." We're like, "What?" And then it was funny. The Satanic Panic happened, and then Sears and Toys R Us were like, "Nope, we don't want these anymore." Like they panicked, and then all of a sudden, all the comic book stores got called. Like, "Hey, do you guys want to carry this?" And we're like, "Yeah, yeah, we do." And we got picketed a couple times, and it was fun because my dad would go out and talk to him, and it was actually a lot of fun. Yeah, I had one crazy, and it was funny because most of the people after like learning what the game really was, they were like, "Oh, it's not bad at all." Like, okay, we were worried over nothing because they were told it was bad. So they got
Yeah,
but we had one lady who refused, and she would pick at our store all the time, and I was in this lady was picketing our store. I was in kindergarten, so this is like Satanic Panic's kind of already happened, and she's still on about it. And she would come out and pick at the store still from time to time. And I'm walking in the store after kindergarten, and she was like, "Are they teaching that devil stuff?" I said, "Yes, ma'am," and I just kept walking in.
I mean that's funny. I mean, at this point, it's more of a joke than it is like
Yeah,
serious. And I think for how stupid it was, uh, I think we're now allowed to laugh
yeah.
about it.
Well, and,
Like
and
because
you look around, people are really easy to get stirred up because people are really good at reading headlines. They're never good at reading the story. And that's kind of
yeah,
how the Satanic Panic got started. Is you had a handful of people that would go on news, or they would go to churches, or they'd go to PTA groups, and would just get people all stirred up, and never tell, like, they wouldn't go and find anything out about the game, and they would freak out about it. And I see stuff like that happen to this day. People will read the headlines, and they're like, "Oh my God, did you hear?" And it's like, well, that's actually not true at all. Like, hey, please, like, yeah.
yeah.
And I deal with people doing that all the time. Like, I work in media for the military, and um, when I was in Ukraine, it was hilarious because we posted a picture, and uh, rumors running around that there was this particular flag was a Nazi flag, and it was not a flag related to Nazism at all. It was people that didn't understand the Ukrainian culture. They've got like a battle flag, and
Yeah.
because Russia had been in Ukraine in Crimea since 2014, and so they've kind of been at war with Russia long before they've been at war with Russia. But anyways, we
Yeah.
posted a picture of our unit colors, and somebody underneath was like, "Oh my God, that's a Nazi flag," and we're like, well, because the flag they were trying to reference was black and red, and we're like, well, that's a red and blue flag, and the patch on it is actually because the our unit patch is it's a raven off of like a totem, but
Yeah.
it's made up of bits and pieces of 5 different tribes from the area from where we're at, and I was like, I'm like, it's a Native American totem on a black and blue, or I mean a red and blue flag. I was like, and then somebody else commented underneath because I responded, politely like, no, I believe you're wrong, and I explained the history of the flag, and then underneath and somebody's like, hey, worst Nazis ever using Native American stuff, and it just like the comments
Yeah.
underneath made me laugh, but it was just somebody that had heard that these black and red flags are bad, and they were trying to call us out, and it's like, it's a black,
Yeah,
we're using red and
no.
blue, like yeah, and you get all kinds of stuff like that all through news media,
Yeah,
and
it's like a yes but no situation. Like,
yeah,
okay, I get where you're from, but no. I get your concern, but you should probably read about it before
yeah,
and then
and
think.
it's so hard to tell people like, hey, go read up on this, and they're like, well, why don't you tell me? I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I don't have time to inform everybody about everything. Please just give
Yeah,
me
that
5 minutes.
exactly. Like, I don't have time to like explain to you everything.
Yeah.
Like, you can
Somebody in the
just
chat said, growing up in a nerdy family, says I was destined for this kind of stuff. And then, so the symbol for the unit is the 81st Striker Brigade Combat Team. So look up 81st SBCT, and you'll see the patch, and it's a white patch with a totem raven on it, and it was designed in the 1970s by a soldier that was part of the unit, because they'd been given permission to have their own patch, and he went around to several different tribes in the area because we're from Washington State, and Washington State's named after George Washington, and the top of George Washington's crest is a raven. So he took something from Washington and took something from from several local tribes to create something that was very unique to the unit, and super. I thought I've always loved the history of this patch, how it gives honor to the local tribes, and still gives an homage back to what the state is, who the state's named after.
that's kind of funny because I went to see the thing and I was like, but that's oh my god, people, please, please,
Yeah,
like it's there. I think there's nothing in the history of the world that is as far away as the Nazi thing than this. Like,
yeah, oh yeah. It's hilarious. I, I just makes me crack up. And again, it comes back to just like somebody read a headline somewhere, and so like the brigade flag will have that patch in the middle, then it's red and blue vertical with the patch in the middle, and it looks really cool. But yeah, just you get people being stupid. Like I said, the most of the people we ran into when I was a kid during the Satanic Panic, as soon as you sat down and like showed them what D&D was, and said, hey, the kids are playing it as good guys, they're defeating the bad guys, or I remember my dad's like, hey, you guys could change the rules so that you're playing as warriors through the Old Testament fighting, and they were like, what, you can do stuff like that? And they would get excited about it. My dad was telling people how to homebrew back in the early 80s. So and it was great because once people understood and they weren't going off of those little tidbits in the headlines, they were like, oh, well, this is an entirely different thing. This is kind of cool. Same thing happened when Magic came around in the
yeah,
90s. Everybody was like, oh my god, magic is evil. And then I remember,
Yeah,
and so many people freaked out that they took the pentagram off of Unholy Strength, and I was really sad that Wizards Coast, for lack of a better term, bent the knee to people that were freaking out, and you get companies do that. People freak out because Twitter said something. I'm like, Twitter's tiny. Twitter is not the voice of the people. It's
yeah. I mean, there are some things sometimes on Twitter that you're just like, okay, that's Twitter, guys. Can
yes,
you please inform yourselves?
yeah,
Like, it's
Twitter.
the same now. It's Twitter. Before it was Facebook, and it's probably be something else
Yeah,
eventually. Like, it's
I mean,
always.
well, people don't realize Twitter is only like 330 million accounts, which I mean sounds like a lot, but it's a global
It's
thing.
not.
Yeah, you got
It's not
7
that
billion
much.
people in the world.
Like, it seems a lot, but it's not that
Yeah,
much. Like, there's a lot of people, sure, and and that's one, like, as you
but
said, like, we can please everyone and blah blah blah, and that's one of the reason, like, we're just okay. But people will sometimes just say things, and there's a difference between being an activist and really like wanting to help things, and having an opinion that is so intensely on one side that you just roll back and start being just
yeah,
a bully again. Like, there's some kind of limit that if you're too much on one side or the other, there's like this whole uh, circle of things that just, like, you don't want to be a bigot, but you're so far that now you are
yeah,
like,
and that happens so much nowadays. And I tried to tell people, I was like, don't take everything so seriously. Like, I love what you guys are doing. You're trying to be respectful to the different cultures you're including, but I love the fact that you're including different cultures and stuff in there so that people can experience. That's why I love Coyote and Crow. There's a ton of native culture stuff that people don't learn about. And it's a way for somebody to take a break and experience get a little experience in something different,
yeah.
and
And it's,
maybe grow at the same time they're having some fun.
yeah, exactly. And Coyote and Crows is written in a way that even if you're not Native American, you can play the game. Like, it's written in a way that, like, we, like, in the team we have knowledge because we have people that are in the team, but like a person that has absolutely no knowledge can still play the game and like
Yeah, because
enjoy and have fun.
yeah, normally I'm not a huge fan of like putting like little disclaimers in the front of a game or anything, but the way he wrote his was, hey, don't be afraid to play this game because you're not native. He says, but also
Yeah,
don't be disrespectful at the same time. And I mean that's boiled down. He said it much more elegantly, and
yeah,
the way it's put is like really cool because he realizes that making this game may not just the concept of it may scare some people off.
yeah.
So I think his little disclaimer kind of warning at it's not a warning. It's a hey, please come play this game and experience it.
Yeah, exactly. And I really, really like this about the game. It's like a lot of people nowadays are really closed to wanting to experience something else because they're like, but what if I do it in a disrespectful way? And what if this? And what if that? But like, how can you educate yourself on something like if it's done respectfully and nicely and explained good and in a good way? Like, how can you know and gain knowledge on things if you don't even try to learn about those things? Like, if you want to learn more about like Native American culture and you absolutely don't like read anything about it, but you go to your friend and it's like, oh, I got this game like Coyote and Crows, and there's like a lot of indigenous culture in it, and do you want to play with me? And you're like, oh no, but because I'm afraid to be
Please,
disrespectful. But
please don't be
it's
afraid.
made like it's made to for people that are indigenous to enjoy the game, and it's made for people that are not indigenous to also enjoy the game, and it's
Yeah,
written in a way that if you're not indigenous, you can there are places in the book that are saying, okay, this you can play this, and this it's and it's really written in a way that you should not be afraid to go there and play things. And I think that's nice about, like, I think today that games can be so much better to learn things and explore things than just reading through books and documentaries and things. Like, people, I mean, you can, it's fine. Like, I like documentaries, I like it,
Yeah,
but I think that there are people that learns better in
yeah.
games.
Someone in the chat said fiction is a good way to educate people, and it really is.
Yeah.
Um, we had somebody in chatting. He's creating a uh, like futuristic Japanese game, and somebody's like, "Well,
Hmm.
but you're not Japanese." And then they found out like he lived in Japan for 10 years and loves the culture, and he wants to, he wants to put something out that kind of celebrates the culture that he's that he went and lived and was part of for a number of years and fell in love with. And like you read through it, and there's nothing, like there it's not bad or derogatory in any way, and it's definitely a love letter to the culture that he adopted.
Yeah, exactly. And like, um we um we think that there's a lot of things that can be learned through games, and that, I think that this is something that we had, well, experienced firsthand, because Arkelon is played a lot by LGBTQ people, and it's like the most simplest way that they can explore what they like. Like, oh, I want to play a female character because I think that it makes me feel better, and I don't know. Okay, I explored something new and I feel better, and then I can explore it maybe in real life now because I liked it. Or it's simple. It's the most usual, like, exploratory thing that you can do with RPGs. But I mean, it's so cool to see people use games and stuff to, like,
Well, it's
explore
there's yeah,
things.
games are a great tool for a lot of things. One, I mean, just the most basic is they're a great way to escape. Just just like you do with video games or whatever. It's a great way to step out and just have some fun. But
Yeah.
we're getting more and more therapists and counselors and psychiatrists that are using them, and we've been contacted by different people about them, and we've got friends of the library that are huge in using games to work with people, and I've done it. So I encourage people to use role playing games to uh, help family and friends that may be having some issues.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a great way, like working with veterans with PTSD. A lot of veterans don't want to admit they have an issue, and then you sit down and you play a game with them for a little while. Then all of a sudden, they're willing to accept that they have an issue, and then you
Yeah.
can help take them to where to a mental health specialist that's going to get them down the right track.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and I think this is another, like, uh one, it was another thing that wanted that we liked about role playing games, and that why we wanted to make one, because it's such a good way to explore things, to learn things, to create stories together, and, like, just keep your imagination, like, running, and create stories, develop stories together. And I think it's nice. It's a nice way to, like, just explore things, and even for children's and younger people to learn about things that they could read a book about it, but why not have them interact with you as a parent, like,
Yeah.
to
Well,
educate
and
them on things.
I always tell people that it's such a great tool for schools are really bad at teaching communication
Yeah.
skills nowadays because everybody picks up their phone and communicates that way. So they learn how to communicate face to face again.
Yeah.
Teamwork. Schools don't teach teamwork anymore.
No, it's really like,
Yeah,
do you know the answer to this? Yes, you have now passed. Okay, but I
yeah,
don't know how to work in real life anymore.
exactly.
Like,
So you teaching the communication skill, teaching teamwork, critical thinking, creativity, just sitting down making up characters. You
yeah,
know, I, it's like, okay, you get an art class, and you can. I have seen students talk their way into a better grade in an art class because they 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 turned in. You can tell, like, okay, I glued some stuff to the paper and I met your minimum requirements, but I deserve an A because, and like, okay, that kid deserves an A for BS, but the kid also wasn't very creative when it came to putting something down on paper. Let's figure out a way to get their creativity going.
yeah, exactly. And I think this is something, like, as I said, that we really wanted. I mean, there's other role playing games out there, but I think we wanted to like have our little thing that we can use for that, and have like our little worlds that we can.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, from what I've seen so far, I'm pretty impressed. The art looks great, and I like the background that you guys are building. So it's looks like it's going to be really cool worlds. You got a wide breadth of interesting races and classes, and then within your races, you got. I mean, you can play the Canadian moose, or you can play
yeah,
a mountain orc, or different types of dragonkins, elves, dwarves. So there's just tons and tons of stuff out there that you can play in this game. I think it's really neat. One last question that always comes up from someone in our Patreon:
hmm
hot dogs or tacos?
I will say tacos, like 100%. Like I like hot dogs too, but tacos are just another level, like another level.
And we get that form. We tacos almost always win out. I love. I mean, I'm a big hot dog guy, but I mean, I probably make tacos far more than I make hot dogs.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy hot dogs, like it's nice, but the tacos are just something else. Like
Yeah,
it's all the things that goes like into it, and like the ingredients and everything. It just tastes awesome together. But I can say that hot dogs on a barbecue are nice.
yes. I love love firing up the grill and making some hot dogs and hamburgers. Actually, I like making hot dogs more than I like making hamburgers. Um,
Yeah, hamburgers are have their own struggle to be
yeah,
made. Like, but yeah, I think that hot dogs on a grill it's nice, but tacos will still win all the time.
somebody says we need to start a tally of the hot dogs and tacos. So I'm pretty sure everybody's winning because even in the couple people that said hot dog, we kind of decided that hot dogs could be a form of tacos.
Yeah, I okay, I can see where this is going, and it's like the sandwich question all over again. Like, is it a sandwich or a calzone or whatever the question
No, it's
was?
definitely not a sandwich because it's not between two pieces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
a
can I
it
can
it
back up
could be a
the hot
taco,
dog as
like,
taco more than I can back up hot dog as a sandwich.
yes, but like asking if a hot dog is a taco is the same thing as asking if a, like, what was it again, like a pocket pizza is a calzone, or I don't know,
Yeah,
I don't remember like the
yeah.
question,
There's
but
there's been a whole bunch of them over the years, but and so we're gonna get to your player character confessional. So to start this off, tell us the character's name, a little bit about the characters. So they were half drow, half dwarf, bard in D&D 3.5, something like that, and then
okay.
um, pause, and then in character, tell us the confessional, and I will turn off my mic for this.
Okay, so like I say in character, like as if like I did this, and blah blah
Exactly.
blah.
Yeah, I'd
Okay,
be like, okay, there I was. The whole party
okay.
looted some cool stuff, and I ended up with the bulk share of the loot. But I tripped a trap that woke the red dragon, and I was able to escape while everyone else got toasted alive. You just have fun in character, elaborate with it as much as you like.
uh, I have so many stories, but I think there's one that I will use for this because that's one of the stories of Pathfinder that we are still talking about. I think 8 years later. um, yeah, so my name is Linton. I am a human wizard in Pathfinder First Edition, and it was we were fighting in a castle very far in the wilderness while we were trying to find out how to find one of the Rune Lords because it was with Rise of the Rune Lords storyline. So we were trying to continue and find out where we were supposed to go next. And there was this castle that was invaded by not orcs, ogres. Um, and we went to the top of the castle and we were fighting our way through, and everything was going so good. We were destroying everything, and the party was great, and everything was doing good. And we reached the top of the castle, and there was this big ogre with a ogre book, and it was there was her his like wife probably that was in another room and were and we started to fight with the rest of the party. There was a lizard folk druid, a human rogue, a human ranger, and a what was the other one, a cat folk gunslinger. That was this. And for a time it was doing good, and eventually the human rogue and his NPC that was following him died because the ogre critted them and killed them. Um, and because I was a coward, I ran away. And I used the make not make hole, but like when you the spell that create a hole in the ground that was like very big, and I ran away, but my party didn't know, so they tried to save me. But I created a wall in front of me so nobody could reach me, and I was fine. But the party didn't know, so the party was stuck behind a wall and a hole. And one of the characters tried to save me because she didn't know that I was not dying and I was fine. And she was critted and died because of me. And the whole group couldn't do anything because I created a hole that was impossible to cross. So the party was stuck, and the wife of the ogre was just mind controlling the gunslinger that was shooting everybody and hitting himself in the face with his gun. So I almost killed the party by trying to save myself because I'm a stupid coward. And that kind of situation happened way often that I should be admitting.
Okay, that was hilarious. That character sounds great.
No, it
I,
wasn't. Like that kind like this. We don't play with this person anymore because we don't speak with them. But like this specific character was such a coward. Like every time something happened, he was just running away and was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna die!" And like it is the kind of player that everything is bullshit. Like, oh my god, I've taken 30 damage and this is bullshit. This monster should not be doing that much damage, but we're like level 16, dude. Like,
yeah, it's
stop.
like you can take the damage. Like as you get higher in level, I've got to ramp things up as the GM. I
Yeah, exactly.
can't keep throwing
Like,
kobolds at you.
yeah, and at this point it was like level 16 or something. Like, my the lizard folk druid was played by me, and at this point I was able to like transform into a freaking dragon and shit like that. So I was like, dude, you're fine, like you're fine, stop running away from everything. Like, cast spells, you're a wizard, please.
Nice. No, I like that. And you said you have more, so if you're willing to record some more and email them to us, we'd love to because we'll start putting them up on YouTube after I get some art done. And start sharing them with people with modulated voices, and because your games, yours are coming from Quebecois. If you want to send us the French version of them, I'll throw those up as well.
Yeah, I can try to do this if I have sometimes that are that is available in the next weeks. But
Yeah,
God, this story, like, it's been like 8 years, I think, and we are still speaking about it because all the party and all the NPCs, like all NPCs died. One of the two characters died, and like it was just a mess. And I was like, dude, why? Like, everyone died because of you. Like, why did you do this?
I we've got a few guys that I played with back in the early 2000s that remind me of crazy things that I put them through as a GM. Um, we had one guy who chose to play a goblin, and we out of in his goblin had a fez, and he was like, oh, I got a fez. And so they started making magical fezzes for him that would do different things. So they had one that they could grab the tassel and spin him around and stick him to a wall, and then he would cling to the wall because of the spell, and then they use him as a grappling hook. So just crazy amount of stories from Volvo Beige Esquire. That was the name of the goblin. Who was also would trade gold and silver for copper because copper was shinier and cooler. Um,
That's kind of funny, though. Uh,
yeah, tons of stories. I've got a bunch from games that I played back in the '90s and games from back in the '80s, and we love doing this. So we'll do this. We'll when we go to events, we'll take a little portable recorder and allow people to sit down and record their confessionals. And we've gotten some really funny ones over the years. But
yeah, probably. I mean, there's always that one.
yeah,
Like, there's always that one person or that one character that does something, and you're like, why are you so stupid? Like,
and if you've been playing for more than 12 months, you've got a story.
yeah,
And some
like,
people have a story from their first game.
yeah, exactly. I mean, at the second that you played for like uh, 3 sessions, probably there's something that had happened.
With the library, one of the very first events, or the very first event the library went to, I ran a bunch of 13-year-old kids through a game, and an hour we played for about an hour and a half. They didn't make it out of the bar. It was a Star Wars game. They didn't make it out of the bar, and every character was killed because of the crazy decisions they made. But those kids walked out just like high-fiving each other and like, did you see when I did this? They were all excited. I was like, I really hope those kids still tell this story because it's been 5 years now. So they're 18-year-olds. Hopefully they're playing RPGs with other people and going, oh my god, my first RPG was this, and just start telling people how crazy it was because that game was bonkers. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, like, one of our old friends that were playing with us, like, the first time he played, and nobody explained him the rules, so he made a character without knowing the rules, and he ended up having a rogue in 3.5 that had like 1 HP. And then the first game, and he died, and the guy that was running the game was like, but why did you do that? And it was like, I don't know, I don't even know how the game works, dude.
this game is BS. I hate it. Oh, it's so stupid. And you're like, well, no, hey, let's.
I mean,
So I I don't know how many games that I've picked up. Like, okay, I'm gonna learn this game, and then you play through, and you're like, this game makes no sense. You're like, then you read through the first time you play, you're like, oh, this these rules make way more sense now.
Yeah, he was just like, dude, if you were just explaining how the game works, it probably would have made a character that had more than 1 HP and I would probably have been able to play for more than 3 seconds.
Like, hey, let's do a high five. Oh, that killed you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's yeah. And like there we have like so many things like that. Like one other guy like died because one I think he lost consciousness in a ditch, but like another character tried to revive him with create water, so he like drowned. And like he was just like, why? Why would you do this?
He was trying to splash him with water. I get the idea, but sometimes, and that's where funny moments come from. It's like, well, that's not how that. Oh, you just murdered your friend. That's not what I meant to do. I didn't mean to murder them. I was playing with. So I hadn't really played 5th edition D&D, and while I was in Ukraine, somebody was running a game. I was like, oh, I'll play, and did this really cool action, and it created a shockwave of sound or sonic damage, and in like D&D 3.5, if I remember correctly, that's not non-lethal. No, not in all magic in 5th edition. In you can't do non-lethal damage with magic, and I didn't know that, and I just murdered like an entire bar full of people, and I was like, oh God, what did I do? And then the bar ends up like collapsing around us because I also like destroyed the walls, and I was like, but that's not what I wanted to do at all. Everybody's looking at me like, you knew it could do that. I was like, nope, not. And it's like, hey, do 3d10, and I'm expecting, okay, I'm gonna do like 5 or 6 damage. Oh no, I did like 23.
Yeah, I think that's
okay,
that's enough to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things when you play new games, like when people are not stupid and just don't tell you how to play, and you just arrive there with a rogue with one HP. But like in other settings, like when you just do, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then it doesn't go as planned, and
yes,
it goes to crap.
Well, that's why I'm very adamant when people are playing GMs. I love GM screens because I tell people, you as the storyteller, you're building the framework. The players are filling out the details, and your dice don't matter because you're not playing against them. You're helping. Your play is the big story tell, and their dice are the ones that really matter because I don't want somebody's experience to be negative at a table because I'm rolling hot. It's like, oh, look, I rolled another 20. But I love it when they do something awesome and heroic. Well, like with that character, teleports over, does this sonic damage, and I'm expected to do just under 10, and I nearly max and just obliterate everything around me. The dice had other thoughts of what I thought I was going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I like GM screen because it's easy to check out like so many rules quickly, but usually when I GM, it's pretty rare that I will roll dice hidden from the player because I don't really care about like what it does. I mean, I can roll a story without fudging dice and everything, so usually I will just don't really care about that. I usually use DM screens to just refer rules and things instead of using the book and stuff.
Yeah, good DM screens are awesome. I've seen, in fact, so not this year when I go to Gen Con, next year for Gen Con and Origins, I'm actually going to be doing a talk on kind of like GM screens and like the history of them, and like good design ones, bad design ones, ones that were designed purposely to be silly, and just like hey, you have this real estate, use it smartly, and how people have done it good over the years and how people have done it bad over the years, and hopefully get kind of educate some people on the ins and outs of GM
Yeah,
screens, and honestly, for some GMs, how to use them. Because some
yeah,
don't under they just think it's there to block view,
yeah.
and
No, there are so many cool and useful information on these.
yeah.
That is way
there's
better.
there's a company that I was just talking to last when I was at Gamma. They're going to send me a couple. They've got blank GM screens that you can make
Yeah,
your own inserts, and I love that because hey, if your game doesn't have a GM screen or you don't like the GM screen that is for your game, you can now make one and share it.
yeah.
Well, it has been awesome talking to you. We look forward to getting your game in our hands, and if you do donate a copy to the library, we would love to get an English and a French copy because I love having copies of books in different languages. We get
Mhm.
every now and then we get people excited when they run into foreign language books. The one that got me was how Steve Jackson Games sent us a Portuguese copy of the GURPS rules, and
That's
somebody
really
came into
nice.
the well, Steve Jackson Games got into Brazil years ago with GURPS, and I was at a big event, and this guy's going through, and he goes, "Oh, GURPS," and he picks it up, and he's like, "It's in Portuguese," and he gets so excited, and then come to
Yeah,
find out, that's how I started to learn about Steve Jackson Games getting into Brazil with GURPS, many years ago, before any other major RPG did, and you'll find a lot of people from Brazil. GURPS was their first role playing game because of that, and he just went on and on and on. Just was so excited that we had a Portuguese copy of GURPS, and he just thought it was the coolest thing. And he was like, "Man, I haven't picked this book up in years." He goes, "My copy of GURPS in Portuguese is at home with my family." He's like, "I haven't been
that's
home
really
in like a
cool.
decade." It's just it's a great little moment, and love having. So we've got um, I have a game in Ukrainian, a game in Portuguese, a couple in German, and a handful in Swedish. So
Okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, we'll probably send you some copies because we have, I think, 15 community copies for like digital version, and we have five physical version in French, and I think we have three in English. So we are still looking at where to send them because we want to give them like to different organism that can use them
yeah,
and like make good use of them. So we probably will send you one in each language,
that would be
so
awesome.
you can like bring it to cons and
Oh,
just go around. We'll see depending on like the printing and how it goes. To probably send your way maybe one DM screen in English probably. If we have like enough copy, maybe one in
yeah,
French too. If you want them, that could be nice. Like depending on the printing, because right now printing is poop, but will hopefully uh like this will probably be like the GM screen will probably, with the printing stuff currently going, will probably be the hardest part to get printed
yeah.
depending on what happens.
Then somebody
But
reminded me we have Italian and Japanese games as well.
oh, damn, that's nice. But yeah, for now, as I said, we have like a couple of community copies that we have, and we're still looking to where like send them and everything. So if you said that the library wants one, then we can like set aside one
Absolutely, yeah.
already and check after that what we do with the other ones. We have like a couple of places that we are still checking with them if they could be interested with having some. So we can set one for the library.
Awesome. And I may know a couple organizations that I'll get you their info. I have to look them up and see if they're still doing role playing games. But so like up in Seattle, there was a the tribes around here got together and started a their own rehab center because there's a lot of substance
Okay.
abuse problems within the native cultures, and they've started some of them have started using role playing games as a way to give the people coming out of their programs something to kind of
Okay.
latch onto and work with. So that might be organizations that you can look into throughout Canada. See if there's any of the tribal organizations that are doing something like that, because I think
Yeah.
that's probably a great place to get a book or two out to. And I just like getting things into the hands of people that are going through something like that, because if you've been addicted to something, you kind of need something to replace that. And honestly, role playing games are a great way to do that. It gives you you're looking forward to that group every week, and you'll sit down and
Yeah.
maybe consume more books versus more substance.
Yeah, exactly. And like as I said, we have like the youth home that we're working with will definitely
Yeah,
get a copy because they've been playing for like 2 years. So we'll send them a copy for sure because they're using this as like their main role playing games for like
that's
youth to
awesome.
explore like gender and just have
Yeah,
fun and blah 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 and make friends and stuff. So like
yeah,
that's sure that a copy goes there, and like probably to the library that will send one in both languages, depending on how it goes. Probably also GM
awesome.
screens
Well, it was great
your
having you
way.
on, and I'd like to thank everybody at home that has tuned in, and everybody that came from your guys' Discord server over to watch. You guys have been awesome, and would love to chatting with you. And the game so far, the art and everything that's up on your website, the world that you're building seems super awesome, and best of luck to you. So, gonna give a couple. Oh yeah, where's the best place to find your team?
We are mostly on Twitter right now because like we have a lot of the our fan base there, but we also have a Facebook page, an Instagram page. The If you wanna send us a question or whatever, either by Twitter, Facebook, or even the website, like there's a place that you can just fill out a little thing, and we'll be back to you with the answer. Or if you want to pre-order, like late pledge are still open for now, since we are not yet ready to go to print before like May, early May probably. So if you want, um, if there are people that still want to check out like the Kickstarter page and everything, there's a lot of info on there to quickly like grasp everything about the game. That there's a lot of illustrations and a little summary of how the game works and everything. And we'll probably be updating the website soon with more of the illustration that we got, and probably make it a little bit better looking to now that we have a little bit more things than we had when we put together the site.
Awesome. Well, again, it's been awesome having you guys on. And so if you go to their website that's linked in the chat, you can go onto their contact page. You can find all the ways to contact them and peruse
Yeah.
through. Look at all the art, look at all the cool background stuff that they have. Um, it's a really cool project. And I think it's going to be a good RPG for people to latch their hands onto. And for us, let's see, tomorrow we've got news and Kickstarters. We don't have Tuesday interviews yet; those are coming. And then we have Wednesday Deadlands again. And then probably in the next couple weeks, I'll get painting up. And the first handful of painting videos, me live streaming painting minis, are going to be pretty funny because it's been about 10 years since I painted minis, so it's going to be a lot of going, oh, you are horrible at this. So it's going to be a lot of shaking off the dust. So, till then, we look forward to seeing you guys play and go out and game with some friends. And thank you for coming to the library today.